Welcome to the 5th video in our Bulldog Blueprint community engagement process. Thank you so much for your interest in our program. The intent of this video is to prepare attendees prior to virtual session number CES 5 on November 17, 2021. This information is also here as a reference for those that are attending in-person sessions and need a refresher, or anyone that hasn't been able to attend. If you've not yet done so, I would recommend also watching the videos that were prepared for CES 1, 2, 3, and 4. While we will briefly review previous sessions at the in-person sessions, this video will not cover our previous work. These videos can be found on the Bulldog Blueprint website, www.bulldogblueprint.com. My name is Damian Schlitt with BLDD Architects and also a member of the Mahomet-Seymour community. I will be working hand in hand with the Bulldog Blueprint Committee through our master planning program. With that, let's get started with the work results from CES number 4. In the first work activity last meeting, by a very wide margin, Scenario 2 was selected as the top choice. This is the scenario which builds a new 6-8 facility south of Middletown Prairie. Scenario 2 was the top or second selection on all ballots. We also did weighted ranking, assigning the top choice a score of 3, the second choice a 2, and the least popular choice a 1. When doing so, Scenario 2 had a weighted score of 2.79 out of 3, substantially more than the other two scenarios. With this feedback, the facilitating team determined our direction was clear, and that from here on out, we would focus only on Scenario 2, the new 6-8, as our solution for moving forward. Now, when understanding a long-range master planning effort, like the one we are engaged with now, it is very seldom that the entirety of wants and needs are able to be implemented in a single phase. As we prepared for CES number 5 and reviewed the second portion of work from CES 4, we realized we did not make it very clear both that we were interested in a phased implementation or what the duration of those phases might look like. So tonight, we'd like to introduce a phased timeline for your consideration, especially related to work later in the meeting. If we begin our timeline from a hypothetical successful referendum on June 28, 2022, we would see that if design were to begin immediately, we could plan to bid these projects in the spring of 2023. Construction would begin as soon as possible in 23 and last in total about 30 months. With the first portion of work being the new middle school for fall 2024 school year, and the remainder of the Phase 1 scope being completed by the fall of 2025. Now, if we were to simply wait until this set of bonds were to retire or be paid off, we would then expect our Phase 2 to begin following the 2042 year. However, that's not the case for our project. In 2031, just roughly 6 years after the completion of Phase 1, we will have access to our sales tax dollars that are currently allocated mostly to the construction of Middletown Prairie Elementary. Those bonds alone could provide access to upwards of $30 million to begin implementation of Phase 2 at that time. Also, due to the growth of our district and the projected continued growth of our Equalized Assessed Value, or our EAV, over the next 8 to 10 years, we could also take the opportunity to refinance these Phase 1 bonds to potentially access more funds beyond that $30 million. Therefore, we could see completion of Phase 2 and the scope of Bulldog Blueprint as early as the fall of 2031 or 32. This would leave us in a great position to revisit the Bulldog Blueprint in 2041, preparing for the retirement of those bonds to allow for another master plan implementation to occur. If timed correctly, that could be done as a potential no-tax referendum. Now, to put this into context with the enrollment and capacity conversations that we had in CES number 4, a little reminder of that. We were hitting target enrollment with average estimated growth around 2040, higher growth that was happening in about 2038, with lower growth not until 2046. And worst case was high growth and meeting our max capacity in the year 2046. Now here, This is where we could implement Phase 2. At this point, we are well ahead of our capacity versus enrollment trends as they project today. And if we do have unexpected growth between now and 2030, we will have flexibility to adjust to support that in a way that aligns with the overall long-term plan. So let's take a look at the Phase 1 options for the implementation of Scenario 2 for consideration. The 3 Phase 1 scenarios, based on the feedback of the community and the work of the facilitating team, are shown here: orange, purple, and blue. You can first see that all 3 options start with the baseline of solving capacity at all of our buildings, pre-K-12, for a budget of $93 million. The orange option, with a total cost of $97.9 million in Phase 1, includes capacity as well as technology upgrades, furniture, and those limited priority A items that we've previously discussed. Purple option includes not only those that were in orange, but also adds B items at each of our buildings. The blue option, this goes all in. It looks at capacity and also implements all the physical needs work right away in Phase 1. As expected, these have very different impacts on our estimated tax rate increase. Orange Phase 1, $97.9 million, has a 94-cent tax rate increase on $100 of assessed value. Purple Phase 1, at $110 million, has a tax rate increase of $1.12. And the blue option, which is in reality a single phase implementation, is $128.4 million and all the way up to a $1.40 tax rate increase. This chart, as well as the next 2, are available on the website. The website calculator has also been updated with these, but we wanted to make sure they were close by for your work and directly available to compare. Here you can see the impacts of the orange Phase 1. Again, $97.9 million, 94-cent tax rate increase. Average Mahomet-Seymour home of approximately $300,000. That's about $884 a year, $74 a month, and about $2.42 per day. Here you can see the impacts of purple Phase 1, $110 million and a $1.12 tax rate increase. That same $300,000 home here is looking at about $1,050 a year, $87 a month, or $288 per day. And then lastly, the impacts of blue Phase 1. The full $128.4 million, a $1.40 tax rate increase. Here, $300,000 home is looking at over $1,300 a year, $110 a month, and about $3.60 per day. Now, before I begin, a refresher on Scenario 2, a little bit about the full scenario layout. At the top, you can see the name of each campus. At the bottom of each column are some basic information related to the options: grade level alignment, existing and additional square footage, and total square footage. Lastly, at the bottom is a legend of colors and traffic lines. These relate to things from new construction and additions to retirement or demolition. Now please note, each site is to scale relative to its additions and renovation. However, the various sites are not to scale to each other. There's a small bar graph at the end of each drawing that shows that scale for comparison. The high school is at a slightly smaller scale than, for instance, Lincoln Trail. So here is Scenario 2, new middle school. In this scenario, the most recognizable feature is the construction of a new 6-8 facility south of Middletown Prairie Elementary. This new facility, approximately 140,000 square feet, would be a replacement for our current 6-8 junior high school. This site layout is based on a 2-story facility to not only maximize flexibility of site use today, but also for any future needs. A separate bus drop with adjacent parking is located on the east side of the site, with a car drop loop and parking located to the west side. This car loop supports roughly 2,000 feet of on-site car queue, roughly 2.5 times that of the existing junior high school, along with roughly 450 parking spaces, a similar count to that of the current high school. The last pieces of work on this site relate to fields, where a junior high baseball and softball field, as well as an 8-lane track with grass infield are shown. Mahomet-Seymour High School includes some important work as well. First is the addition of an approximately 35,000 square foot fine arts addition to the east end of the site. This would house band, choir, art, and a 750 to 1,000 seat auditorium. This relocation of band and art allows those spaces to be recouped for other needed spaces. The current art space would become additional learning spaces, while band and choir becomes both learning spaces as well as additional PE locker room area. There are also needs related to the site. These begin with a new turf field and rebuilt 8-lane track. Also related to fields is a second JV turf field. The need for this as a turf field is related to the site constraints. A high school district our size could use 3 to 4 practice fields to support all of our programs, including marching band and all sports. Due to that, we have looked at a turf solution that would allow for use all year, all day, without destroying that field. A 50-yard natural grass practice field would also be included at the northwest corner. Lastly, on this site, you will see the addition of approximately 100 parking spaces. This is on our site along Crowley Road and at the corner of our property just south of the field house. While traffic flow is shown to remain the same, the new parking to the west does offer opportunities to revisit the student versus car drop traffic flow. Lincoln Trail remains as a 3-5, and the first piece you notice are the 2 additions. One at approximately 18,000 square feet would house space for expanded commons, specials, library, multi-purpose space. The second addition at approximately 7,000 square feet is a classroom addition that allows us to organize the facility into 3 zones, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, with applicable support spaces and resources. This zoning can be seen on the sheets on the website and include reconfiguration of the library and some other core classrooms to support these grade level teams. Now, relative to this site, there are some significant changes. The first is related to traffic flow. The most noticeable changes coming from the removal of the transportation building as it's moved out to the Middletown Prairie site, as well as the addition of a bus lane and visitor parking on the south side of the site. These adjustments, in conjunction of routing car traffic from the east around the campus and providing queue space on the site, pulls most of LTE's traffic from the corner of State and Division. Lastly, you see relocation of playgrounds and hard play areas due to these additions. Now, Middletown Prairie does remain a pre-K2, and included here is simply the addition of approximately 13,000 square feet of additional classrooms for K2 and an additional pre-K room. You can also see the extension of the car loop past that addition. Now that concludes our presentation for this meeting. Our next meeting is on January 11th, 2022, where we're going to review our final recommendation of the facilitating team prior to its presentation to the Board of Education. If you're watching this after that date, please go check out video 6.